had gone maybe a block or two, and there was a yellow tape across Van Owen. So
The tape was already out there?
Tape was already there. The parking PD car was there, and but it turned around and left on the tape, so that left me, 2 or 3 other cars. It wasn't very much traffic, and at the tape at just a little ways past what they call Marrella Street, and so I can see down Van Owen. There was nothing on Van Owen all the way to all the way to Laurel Canyon, and there was a truck that I could see a portion of at the corner of Laurel Canyon and Van Owen. I didn't see any flashing lights. I assumed that maybe it was an accident and perhaps a diesel spill because there wasn't a lot of activity. I didn't notice the helicopters overhead.
But at this point, you hadn't heard anything whatsoever about bank robbery?
Nothing whatsoever,
Yeah.
no. And so I turned around, a U-turn there, and I turned south on Marrella. Well, that only goes about a block and then dead ends, but it dead ends right there at, what's the name of that street? God darn it, I can't think of it now. Hines and I'll have to think of it.
Oh, it's okay. Like Ash or something, one of those other little streets?
Oh, gosh, I can't think, but that street parallels Van Owen. And so I turned right on that street, and I thought, well, I'll go down to as far as it'll go and maybe go over to Victory. There was traffic stopped at the next intersection, which would have been Hines. And I was behind perhaps 3 cars or so. And I couldn't quite see, but there was a car blocking the intersection. Very small streets there. And the first car was able to get around. The second car, the car in front of me, he got to the white Chevrolet, and he got a piece of it. He hit it on the way by. And now it's my turn, and I see that there's this little Chevrolet, a Celebrity they call it, and it was shot full of holes. All the glass, everything, it was just bullet holes throughout it. And I could see even before then that it wasn't driving very well. But anyway, when I got up to it, I couldn't get by. Now there was no room. So I pulled up to his bumper. I could see through the windshield, which was all splattered with gunfire, that he had a mask on, a ski mask, full mask. And at that time is when all I could keep on my mind was a robbery, yes, but maybe the little S&J Market, which is right around the corner. I couldn't get it out of my mind. What else is in the neighborhood? I had no idea. But I'm looking around now, there's a lot of bullet holes in this car, and there's no cops. There's no cops anywhere. And I found that to be really strange. So then in those, everything is in a second. And I began to think perhaps an armored car robbery. And the guards shot the car. But, you try to put together logic. Well, there was a lot of bullet holes in that car. More than 2 guards could have emptied in their pistols. So anyway, in any case, I couldn't get by. And so I asked him basically, what now? There was a lot of words, but I said, well, what now? And he was jerky, very, very quick to bring the gun up on the dashboard. And then I kind of felt, oh, I see. So I backed up. I put it in gear and I backed up. And as I was backing, he fired. And with the AK-47, 3 rounds come out so quick you can't tell. Besides that, the cab shook and all my glass just disintegrated. And I was looking out the back window, so I had my arm up on the seat, the back of the seat as I was turning to the right, looking out the back window. And he got me in the arm, in the head, across my nose, and so there was kind of an instant amount of stinging pain.
Yeah.
And the cab shook like a hand grenade.
So he was definitely shooting at you.
Yeah, he was definitely shooting at me, and I didn't know that there was 3 rounds fired until way later, watching, I think it was an LAPD video that the PD showed me, and you could see then that there was 3 puffs of smoke that come out of his glass, out of his windshield.
And at that specific time, that's when the helos they can totally see everything that's going on.
Yeah, you must be able to see everything, but I never saw them, I never looked up, and I never heard them until sometime later. But I just turned the key off in the truck, turned off my boost pump, which is one hand is the key, the other hand is the boost pump, and just opened the door and left. I just let it coast to a stop in gear, and with the engine dead. So I turned, I warned the guy behind me. He saw that I was bleeding, I think, because I could see the kind of a shock or a reaction in his face. I went around him and I went to my left to stay out of the view of Emil, the shooter. And I was by that time over near a house right behind my truck. And I'm looking for someplace to go, but there's a big fence there, wooden fence, couldn't get by it. And so I look back and Emil's still driving the car. And it just, with all flat tires, it just kind of goes thump, 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 and he keeps coming. So about that time, a guy that turned and parked in that driveway there, he came over to me and he motioned to go into the house. Well, I thought he lived there, actually. And so I went a little ways and I looked back, and Emil's car's still coming. So I had a hard time seeing because the blood was running in my eyes quite a bit, and so I kept mopping it up. And so he motioned to go to the front door, so I went with him to the front door. But then it was at that point that I found he didn't live there. He was just like me, looking for someplace to go. So we knocked on, we beat on the door. We didn't knock on the door. We beat on the door pretty good. No reaction, and there was no movement of the curtains or anything like that. Nobody looked out. There was a window right there next to the door. So I looked back, and Emil was now out of the car, and with a couple of guns, and I figured he was going to continue on coming down the street. So you get kind of apprehensive. Well, I know that I could have gone through that door. I would have broken it down. But I looked, and he decided to take my truck. So he loaded several guns. I don't remember if they threw any money in there or not. But anyway, he put a few guns in the front seat, jumped in, closed the door, and then just sat there. Perhaps he had no idea how to drive my truck. And then I noticed that he is taking an interest in something to the west, coming down the street, I suppose. I couldn't see around the fence that I had referred to. So then he got out, and now I'm apprehensive again. Where's he going now? And his concentration was whatever was coming up the street. And then I could hear squealing tires coming to a stop, and then the gunfire started. And so that front door of that house had a little short retaining wall, brick wall, right there next to the door, and as a part of the front porch. So we knelt down behind the brick, and it was only a few feet tall, so you kind of feel like you want to get in the corner, you know. And the gunfire started. I was quoted by an attorney telling me how long the gunfire was. It was 1 minute and 44 seconds. And that was absolute continuous gunfire. We could hear everything, the shotguns, individual rounds, the machine gun constantly popping, and so there was in fact a slight lull, and I kind of looked up, and that was only a few seconds of lull, and then the gunfire continued on, and pretty soon it kind of stopped. So this time I waited a little longer, and I look up, and he had fallen on the hood. He was firing from the front of his car. He fell on the hood more or less, and kind of melted off of the hood down onto the street. And within seconds, there was hundreds of cops there, and you could see SWAT was well prepared. The ones that had come in, probably a little later, and they were the ones that took him down, and I could see him laying on the street. He was still alive, and they were pretty sure there was just hundreds of police everywhere. Tapes were going up. Now I could pay attention. There was a helicopter overhead. They sent a cop up to me to guard me. Nelson was his name, and I couldn't get past Nelson, but there wasn't any place I wanted. He wanted me to sit down. Well, after squatting down behind that wall, I wanted to stand up. He was getting a little bit perturbed. That was too bad. I said, I don't want to sit anymore. So I stood there, and he stood right in front of me. That was his job, and wouldn't let me go by. And so I just basically looked around. At the end of the street, right at that corner of Morella, they had put yellow tape across that street. Neighbors began to gather, and the cop that was guarding the yellow tape was at alert with a shotgun, and he wanted everybody to go away. I found that to be a little strange at the time, because I still didn't know what all was happening, and he wanted everybody to go away. And that is, later on you find that they were still looking for other suspects, and I was one. So I got a ambulance ride, police escort, then I had guards at the hospital, and that was about that. I wanted a cigarette real bad, I'll say that much. I smoked in those days. No cops smoked, there was nobody. I couldn't get to my cigarettes, we were in the truck. The SWAT, I think he was a lieutenant in charge of the area, wasn't going to let anybody near anything. And so that was basically it up till the time I left the hospital. The guards had gone, and it was in the hospital only that I saw the television of what was going on. All the nurses, all the personnel were all gathered around a TV, so I was kind of watching to see, what was going on.
Mm-hmm. What were the extent of your injuries?
I still have a little bit of metal in me, but it was the side of the head, the cheek. Took off some of my nose. It's grown back now. I didn't have to have plastic surgery. And all of my arm, that was all glass and bullet pieces.
Okay.
Extensively. My arm probably was the one that hurt the most afterward. It was deep. They had to cut out a lot of the pieces and stuff, and that was the extent of it. Everything's healed, basically.